Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for coming out once again to our atrium for our Lunch and Learn series. As many of you know, we've tried to switch things to Thursdays now. We're trying to encourage as much participation and turnout as we can. Our next Lunch and Learn series event is going to be coming up on November 13th. So if you're watching at home, November 13th, Thursday at noon right here, bring your yoga mat, because we're going to do yoga and meditation and have a really interesting presentation on how to deal with stress over the course of a work day. So that's November 13th. I'm looking forward to that. Please come out. Today, it is my great pleasure to talk a little bit about Nancy Chavez and talk a little bit about the impact of domestic violence in our communities. Nancy Chavez knows that impact well because she herself survived an abusive relationship. But years later, she lost her daughter to domestic violence, and she was killed by her husband. And that's why Nancy Chavez founded Randy's House of Angels. Randy's House of Angels is committed to helping stop the vicious cycle of domestic violence that plagues our communities. Randy's House of Angels focuses particularly on children of victims of domestic violence, and it helps provide them with desperately needed protection and support. Nancy describes herself as a crusader dedicated to helping the thousands of people throughout our nation who are struggling to survive domestic abuse. So, with that introduction, please join me in welcoming Ms. Chavez as moderator of today's Lunch and Learn here in the atrium.
Thank you, Mayor Pappenfuss and Ms. Davis and staff for inviting me here today and for those kind words and also sharing my story. I'm honored to be here today in the efforts to support Domestic Violence Awareness Month and to bring light to the issue that affects many of our communities in a staggering way. This is a time that makes the greatest impact on raising awareness and also participating in events in memory of those who have lost their lives to the hands of abusers. Thanks to the National Coalition of Domestic Violence, who established the first day of unity, observed in October of 1981, with the mission to connect advocates across the nation to come together and to end the violence against women and their children. And since that day, many mayors and leaders in communities have held events like we're doing here today with hope to stop the violence. They say that bad news has no limit. They also say that we often shield ourselves to not take on any more than we can handle. What I know is that the storm does always get worse. I now speak out and can openly share with you that I was a victim of domestic violence for more than 8 years. It took me several years just to talk about that and to say that I was a victim. Unfortunately, my story just does not end there. On January 10th of 2003, my daughter Randy was murdered brutally in her home. Her husband had planned for 7 months to kill her and to hire his best friend to actually commit the murder. He believed that killing her was better than putting the family through a divorce. All of us will experience a new beginning in our lives, such as I have, whether it's through tragedy, our health, or simple retirement. I have learned that life is not a chess game waiting for the next move, but a mission to find happiness no matter how short. You know, Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "You can gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really look fear in the face, and you actually say to yourself, I lived through that horror. I can take the next thing that comes along." So my daughter's death did open up a new beginning for me. I have looked fear in the face and certainly know that I have lived through horror that only I wish to tell. Accepting that change has not been easy. I honor my daughter, of course, now by living the legacy through the establishment of Randy's House of Angels, that certainly helps children that are exposed to and are victims of domestic violence by organizing Randy's Race. Randy's Race for Hope and Courage raised over $298,000 to date to support domestic violence services, and by facilitating 3 summer camps for children that have domestic violence in their life, but more so in advocating against domestic violence. The minute that my ex-husband slapped me and punched me, I became a statistic. Unfortunately, the number of statistics continue to increase in the domestic violence world. We continue to learn that 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. And also in many metropolitan police departments, they are receiving domestic violence calls every 17 minutes. I am here today not only to say that I am a victim of domestic violence, but also as an advocate. It is my hope that sharing my story will be heard, that you will learn from my experiences, and we will say no more. No more to domestic violence, and continue the movement to work together to end domestic violence and sexual assault. Thank you. As we move forward with the program, it's very exciting to be able to see not only testimony from the different survivors, but also individuals like Rhonda Hendrickson that provide us from the advocacy what we should do and how we should teach each other about domestic violence. But when we look at talent, I think it's very important to recognize our next group, poetry selections in honor of victims of domestic violence abuse. From a poetry group, I Am Words, Denise Hill, Ronald Jackson, and Madonna Atui.
My name is Madonna Watry. I am so happy to be and call myself 1/3 of the poetry collective I Am Words. We do not take lightly the issue of domestic violence. And as a survivor myself, and as someone who is so serious about being courageous enough to leave, we have crafted these pieces. So first coming to the stage is Tiger Rose. Please give him a hand as he comes.
Change is uncomfortable. And it is the very thing that will shake the foundation of your faith and leave you in fear. But you don't hear me though. So you go through your trials and tribulations and you pray, but nothing changes. So you figure you put forth the work, because we all know that faith without works is dead. So you go ahead and you go harder, but nothing changes. So you figure that you'll change. You'll dive deep into your community and maybe mentor someone. Affect those around you so that in turn the Lord will bless you. But if you like me, then you know that you can't, because financially you're broke. Emotionally unstable. But you're trying to help everybody around you and you can't even help yourself. So you find yourself like me, digging deep into a hole without a ladder to climb out of. And the only thing that can stop it is change. But remember, change is uncomfortable. And it is the very thing that will shake the foundation of your faith. So since you won't change as a man, I apologize. I apologize for the God-given ability to speak so smoothly into your ears. See, women, you don't let us. We seduce you. See, we can confuse you into believing the things that we want you to believe, like you'll never be successful unless you stand by my side. You get with the men that give you empty compliments to keep you around. You know, the pushing away but pulling back, feeling like, girl, you look good. For your size, I can make you better. I apologize. I apologize for using the trap. You know, religion and God's plans for man to find woman, and then the physical attraction keeps you attracted so that we mate and reproduce. But once we reproduce, there's nothing in your precious Bible about detachment, so you become stuck. Heck, even Proverbs and Psalms say, you will wait. You will wait for me to come. But as we create this soul tie, our soul tied so many times that the very thing that creates life is the exact same reason why you're choking and slowly dying, but you can't escape. No, not even in your deepest times of fear. See, I'll have you arguing with your conscience. One's like, leave him, girl. The other one's like, look into your scripture, but your scripture says, be my servant and wash my feet with your hair. I said, girl, wait. Because society tells you to stand strong behind your man. And religion says that divorce is no, neither giving you an avenue to escape, so you run to your friends, and your friends tell you the truth, like, girl, love is blind, and it'll take over your mind. But you tell them, no, they're making a mistake because I love you, and honestly, I do love you, so I apologize. I apologize for being physical, messing up your mental, but I knew if I knocked out your tooth, that your insurance would cover your dental. See, what I ask of you is simple, girl, just give me what I want. No, don't listen to your friends. You know I was just messing with those girls. I was gonna come right back. Come on, don't try to stand up and be strong. That's just gonna get you slapped. It's men up and girls down. I know you listen to rap. Now, as a real man, I apologize for these no good, soft, dirty, dumb, immature men that's not intelligent enough. So they revert back to their caveman days where it's just physical, because thinking isn't an option. And honestly, my heart goes out to y'all women that's stuck in a temporary forever saying, girl, he won't get it together, trust me. No, trust me, he won't. Because we as men only do what you allow us to do. And like babies, we push the boundaries to see how far we can go and or how much that you can take. So ladies, don't follow your mind, because your mind becomes corrupted by your heart. And don't follow your heart, because your heart becomes corrupted by your, What I'm saying is God is within us all. So there's no need to outsource into friends, family, or even religion when God is within you. You know that gut feeling you get when it's time to walk away? I'm telling you to follow it and leave. And I know you're looking at me like, Tiger, it's easier said than done, but if you can't walk away, then run. Don't become a prisoner trapped in his soul and allow your heart to become numb. You gotta close Pandora's box, switch the status quo, and it all starts with raising our daughters and our sons. Thank you.
He hits it hard, until I feel like I can't even take it anymore. But I do. We said I do. But I had no idea that this is what I would have to go through, hard love. The words jumped from our lips. We stared into each other's eyes. Our hearts became one. Now, his words cut like a knife. His eyes are as cold as ice, and I'm afraid that the man that I would die for will one day take my life. I was his wife. They say a hard head makes a soft behind, and in my head it made sense to stand behind my man. Walk on this journey with him no matter the length. Do you know he told me he admires my strength? How I stand on my own 2 feet no matter how hard it may look. Take whatever blows life undoubtedly throws, including his right hook. How I work all day in a salon perfecting bobs and weaves. On my way home, I should change my name to Layla because I've perfected my bob and weave. This isn't the legacy I was supposed to inherit. But I learned how to reapply my lipstick, conceal the scars, grin and bear it. All the MAP foundation in the world wouldn't begin to make up for the amount of bones and self-esteem he's been successfully able to break up. If I told you my real story, you would be astonished. But your disbelief would pale in comparison to the day I heard my son say, Mom, you promised. See, I promised I wouldn't take him back anymore. And he wouldn't have to hear his dad call me names anymore. And he could just concentrate on having fun. And the only number he had to worry about was the 23 on his sneakers, not always being ready to dial 911. See, love is hard. It takes an open mind, a pure heart, and apparently a jaw of steel. Still, I learned how to scoop up the broken pieces of my heart and begin to heal. Because I recognize that God has so much more in store, and I don't care how hard he hits it, I won't take this anymore.
They say it pisses God off when you walk by the color purple in a field and don't notice it. They say it pisses God off when you walk by the color purple in a field and don't notice it. Did you notice the purple bruises around my eyes, how something with me just don't seem right? See, I hide in the corner of my office because he had been up all night putting in work. Not in me, but on me, because when he got home, his dinner wasn't ready. See, I had been busy all day working, not being domestic. Who knew violence would come? Intrinsically is his hand attached to the bat he swung. Wood met with flesh, he hoped for a home run. But it's not baseball he's playing, but my face he's laying in wait to. As I curl against the altar of his left hand, I pray his right hand will recognize that I'm his woman. Not a punching bag full of sand to take shots at when his day goes bad. Did you see the color purple? Black and blue bruises filled with blood. See, I would bleed for him to know that the things he does to me, I would never do to him. See, I would martyr myself to save him, but he can't see that black and blue makes purple. Black and blue makes purple. I would gladly make purple out of orange and red for him to want to hug me instead of punch the walls, punch the headboard, punch me. How can a man who claimed to love me do this? And how can a God who's to be a miracle worker let me go through this? Oh, I forgot. Free will. See, after I met this man, time stood still. When I was 5 months pregnant, he took a knife and busted open a faucet, said next time it would be my life. As the water rained down inside, my soul gave up inside. Y'all see, I was broken. And although you and I, we have never, ever spoken, I often wonder if you notice the color purple when I walk by. Thank you.
Thank you. Listening to you, I feel it in my heart. I was there. The color purple, the many bruises that I wore, I tried very hard to hide them because I was protecting my abuser. And I can remember, I can just share this with you, every time that I heard, I'm sorry, and I thought I was moving forward, that I was truly moving back each time to that horror. So that really touched me. Thank you. Our next speaker is Angel Fox. She's a representative of Hope from an Angel, a parenting group for victims of domestic violence, and also the best friend of Tarina Fields, the Harrisburg School District teacher who was killed by her husband. And this is really counts because the testimony and also hearing the real words from individuals like Ms. Fox will impact you.
Good afternoon. 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence in their lifetime. I am my parents' 4th and last daughter. Domestic violence changed my life when I was 24. I was a mother of 1 child and pregnant with another when physical and mental abuse began from my son's father. At first, I didn't understand how it could happen to me. Then I thought it would get better, but it didn't. I couldn't ask for help because I was too embarrassed. I was an athlete, a mother, an activist, a coach, and well known in my community. I also worked in corrections as well as in a detention youth center. I thought people seeing me as less than perfect or strong was not an option for me. I remember my favorite aunt coming to visit me from Mississippi and her knowing but not knowing I was in an abusive relationship. Before she left, she sat me down, like she always does, to share my family history. She said, "Baby girl, my baby sister was killed by her husband before you were born." I said, "How?" She said he was beating her one day, and as she ran from him, she ran out the house into traffic in a tractor trailer, hit her and killed her. Her husband was never charged. She said, "I love you," and she left. 1 week later, after her visit, I took my sons into the apartment after work, went back to the car to get my cell phone and a few other things. But for some reason, I had a bad feeling come over me. As I reached back to look at the secure door to see if it shut behind me, when I turned around, there stood the man I had been hiding from, my son's father. He began to attack me and threatened to kill me once he got me back into the apartment. All I knew is that I couldn't let him get me back into this apartment and kill me in front of my sons. I had to get away, so I hit him with everything I had in me for him to let me go. And I ran right into near death. I ran right in front of traffic. The car weaved and missed me. I saw my aunt's story flash before me. and I couldn't let history repeat itself. I survived and I got away, but it wasn't the case for my sister. On December 15th, 2011, at the age of 30, I was reliving another domestic violence nightmare. To this day, I still struggle to deal with it. My sister, my best friend, my teammate, my role model, my children's godmom was murdered by her estranged husband. As she lay asleep, he crept into the house like a thief in the night and stole her life, stabbing her 27 times and shooting her once close range in the eye, ending her beautiful life. I struggle, but yet I am grateful to be able to live my life and keep her legacy alive, wondering how God spared me but took her. I may never know the answer, but I am grateful to share our stories to give women hope that they too can survive. To our police department, treat every case like it's the victim's last chance and charge every abuser, even if the woman goes back. At least you did your job. My abuser was never charged, and the DA didn't think the case was strong enough. So for 2 years, I lived in fear. I carried a gun against my own will to protect me and my kids. My abuser is now in jail, serving 30 years for drugs. I guess God had a bigger plan for him than the DA did. To domestic violence victims, fight, fight, fight. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for your kids or do it for your family. I fought because I knew my kids needed me more and deserved me more than their abusive father. My sister, she fought to her last breath. She will always be my hero. The fight may be hard, but sometimes unsure, but reach out for help and know you'll survive. If my sister could look back today and do anything different, I know she would ask for help before it was too late. Thank you.
Fighting is important, but it also is important that you recognize that you should not be abused. It starts with you. This leads into the other important aspect of why we have a Lunch and Learn. It's about learning about resources. And to know that in the 70s, when I was going through my abusive relationship, I had nowhere to go. There weren't shelters, there weren't resources. The only place I would go to was the police, and I dare not do that because my abuse would get worse. I'd like to introduce Rhonda Hendrickson. She is the Director of Domestic Violence and Violence Intervention Prevention at the Ywca.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Nancy. And I just want to take a moment and recognize the strength and courage it takes Nancy and Angel to come up here and share such intimate parts of their life. And you know, we thank you for doing that because if nothing else, it helps us raise awareness that this issue is in our community. You know, I think you've probably all seen the Ray Rice video, and we've all been appalled by what we see. This is happening in your backyards every single day. And I'm here also to challenge you all with changing the question. So many people say, why does she stay? I see YouTube videos out there about why she stays. And yes, it's important to understand the barriers victims face, but how about this question? Why does he abuse? And why is he not being held accountable? So I really challenge you to let's put the blame where it belongs, and that's on the perpetrator. What we want to do at the Violence Intervention and Prevention Department at the YWCA is help the survivors and their affected family members to move forward. So we offer free and confidential services. Nancy alluded to some of those. We have a 30-day domestic violence shelter where women will receive intensive case management. Their children may stay with them. We also provide shelter services for men. So that's important to recognize that we know men are victims in this as well. Most of the people that we do see, though, are women, so excuse my gender-based language, but those are the statistics. We offer empowerment-based counseling for survivors. We offer support groups, medical advocacy. We will provide them other resources to link them up with, those wraparound services that really help them move on a path towards healing, whatever that may be for each survivor. We have relocation programs. We have prevention education programs where we will come out to your schools, your community groups, your PTOs, and we will talk about the signs to look for. We will also talk about things like how to be an active bystander. How do you make an intervention when you think a friend or a family member is involved in a domestic violence relationship? Or how about your teen who doesn't know that they're involved in an abusive relationship, and many do not recognize it because they're just building those relationships. So we can come out and teach and train. We can train other professionals to help do the work that we all do. We do believe that it takes a community to address these issues. We can't do it alone. We appreciate the support and the invitation to come here and share our services to be able to get the word out so that more men, women, and children can be helped. And together, we hope that we end domestic violence sometime. If you have any questions for us, we do have a toll-free number, 800-654-1211, and that number is staffed 24/7. So give us a call. We can help you on the hotline. We can talk to mom if she has concerns about daughter, and give you some tips and strategies to use. Thank you.
If I may share with you, many people have asked me why I have moved my mission on to helping children. And it took me a long time to decide that strategy. And for many years, when I was in an abusive relationship with my ex-husband, my daughter Randy and I and my husband had a happy family. And he never abused her. But it took me a long time to realize that she was a victim of domestic violence in my home. Whenever he closed the doors while he was slapping me, or when he was coming home and I would get very stressed out and trying to prepare for when he opened that door what he would be like, or when he threw me out of the house and then threw her out with me, that she was experiencing as a victim of domestic violence. So with all due respect to the wonderful resources that are in all communities across Pennsylvania, and certainly that help women and men of domestic violence, I felt there was a need to begin to look at what is happening in our communities and to stop domestic violence and to start with the children, because children are perpetuating the behavior that they see in their homes. They are acting out when they are in kindergarten, in grade school, and they are acting out what they experience, not only physically, but also speaking out. And they may do that to their loved ones, to their mother, to their brothers and sisters. I felt that it's extremely important that we begin to look at children. And so Randy's House of Angels is exactly what I feel that's very important, to begin to look at the children to stop that perpetuation of behavior. I hope that you all take the time to take a brochure, because the services we provide are at no cost. We've had camps where families can bring their children at no cost. We also have a therapeutic group for children that are with other children going through different activities to be able to express themselves and to talk about themselves. It is not so much about trying to rebuild themselves as a person, but to see that they are truly have their own feelings and to be able to talk about that. I appreciate you being here today, and I certainly appreciate the mayor, Joyce, and everyone in the Harrisburg City staff here pulling the Lunch and Learn together, because this is where it starts. It's beginning to talk about it and to be able to hear from other individuals that have experienced domestic violence. Thank you.